there, guys. What's happening? Welcome to this first edition in the series that we're going to be doing for the AIM 74. Now, you have a Model 90 behind me. This is what a Model 90 would look like. An AIM 74 would look very similar. However, its main difference, other than the magazine, is this bad boy here. So, yeah. Anywho, what we're going to be doing with this gun here is we are going to be building it up as a non-gun for the most part, and then the last video we're going to make it into a gun. But anyway, the objective is to show you guys how to use this, which is the Recreator 80% drill fixture. This is the newer version that works with the center support installed versions of the 80%, and is not like this one here, which only works without the center support installed. Now, anywho, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be kind of doing a paint by numbers sort of thing here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take different colors of spray paint, we're going to coat these parts, and we're going to make the colors clash. Like the receiver might be white, and the front trunnion will be yellow or blue, and the rivets will be bright red or something like that. I haven't really got the colors worked out, so once we get the partridge family build underway, or the armed ape build underway, we will get, you know, you're going to see a lot of crazy colors. But don't worry, the gun's not going to stay that color. I may leave it like that for a little while just to torment people that are out and about, but I digress. I'm not going to leave the gun that color, and we will be distressing the receiver to match the rest of the parts kit, which has this pretty nice patina on it. So we are going to be matching the receiver to the rest of the parts kit, so the gun's going to look well used, not abused. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go over all the components, and the reason being is that I want to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're looking at. We are building an AK-74 version, so you're just going to have to make sure that you have all the components that will make this the AK-74. So when we first start on the AK-74, in this situation, we have a non-Bulgarian style front sight block. The front sight block does have the threaded muzzle end attached to it, so that the muzzle itself won't be threaded typically. If you do have a threaded barrel, don't worry, just press this on right over the threads and it should press on just fine. Now, before we start assembling this, I don't have the barrel with me just yet. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure the inner diameter of these parts matches up to the parts of the barrel where we're going to be pressing these onto. Anyway, you want to make sure your threads are nice and you don't have any galling or anything on the threads. Obviously this screwed right on, so we don't have to worry about any issues with that. Now, since we are doing a brand new build, you know, you want to look in here and make sure that there isn't a bunch of rust that's going to prohibit the use of this part in the future. Now, keep in mind that this doesn't have the vent holes that a Bulgarian would have, so just kind of look that over real good. Make sure that there isn't a bunch of fouling that's going to mess up your day when you get to that point. So anyway, locks on just like that, just like any Bulgarian would or an AKM would, but it is the right hand thread, not the left hand thread. So just kind of keep that in mind. Bayonet lug on the front sight block, just like the standard Bulgarian. So moving on, we have the regular AKM gas block. An AKM gas block, let's get a... This here is a Recreator Blanks gas block. We aren't going to be using this on this build, but just kind of give you a good side-by-side comparison here. Just a standard, regular, run-of-the-mill AKM gas block. There's nothing special about this that would stand out. It's an AKM gas block, so don't expect too many crazy differences here. The AIM 74 does not have a 90-degree gas block like the AK-74, like your Bulgarians would, the AK-100 series rifles would. Lower handguard retainer, nothing out of the norm with this. This is a regular AKM lower handguard retainer. Gas tube. The AK-74 typically has a different style gas tube. This one does not. This is a regular standard AKM gas tube. In this case, we have a Bakelite upper handguard. So you want to make sure that these parts are serviceable. You want to make sure that there isn't any dinging or galling or anything on the sides here that would cause problems when you go to install the part into the rear sight block. Likewise, we want to make sure that the tabs and the front piece here on the lower handguard are serviceable. You want to make sure that the sides aren't cracked and distorted. You want to make sure that that's good to go, and we're not going to have any problems with that. Moving on to the rear sight block, you want to make sure that this clip here, the gas tube block, is serviceable. It's not bent or missing. You want to make sure that that is there. Now, if it's Polish Tontal, you'll obviously not have one because the sight blocks are set up a little bit different. Sight leaf, you want to make sure that sucker's not bent. You want to make sure it's good and straight. A little bit of a bend isn't too big of a deal, but if you're wanting to build off of aesthetics, you're probably going to have an issue if you do have a rear sight leaf that's bent. Now, you want to make sure that this stuff here, all these dimensions, the side where the trunnion meets up to, you want to make sure that these ears aren't bent. You want to make sure that they are good to go. They're ready to be pressed on. You won't have any issues. Side to side movement. It doesn't look like some goober jammed this in and dinged up the ears of the rear sight block. Now on this one here, it isn't quite as clean of a D-mill as normally people would be getting, but now keep in mind I did ask for something that was a little bit rougher around the edges than their normal build, or than their normal AK. And Arms of America was more than happy to oblige, but I did have to wait for the kit. That way they could get the one that I was looking for. Anyway, like I said, it's a decently, I mean, it's not a rough D-mill, but there are, you know, stepping stones that were addressed during the D-mill process. Obviously, the part started to slip off whatever tool that they were using. So there is a little bit of a gall here and right here. So we do have some issues there. Not a big deal. All we got to do is hit this with a file, because once we build this gun, we're going to have an issue where that's a potential snag, and we might, you know, bang up our finger or whatever on it. You want to make sure that the rifle's not going to cut you when you're trying to service it. So we're going to make sure that we knock that down with a file, and everything's going to be good to go. Front trunnion, you know, it's just a front trunnion. There's nothing, I keep saying there's nothing special about it, but there's quite literally nothing special about this AK front trunnion. Now keep in mind it is an AK-74, an Ames 74 trunnion. Now, like I said, it isn't the best D-mill, and you can tell in some of the features here. The front trunnion rivet holes, obviously they're puckered a little bit, they're damaged a little bit. There's a lip on the holes. Now, I'm not sure if that's due to D-mill or the actual building process, but one thing is for sure, that's something that you're going to need to address before you put this part into an actual receiver. So you want the side of the receiver walls to stay flat against the side of the trunnion, and in this situation you're going to end up with a problem with the receiver wanting to be pushed away from the side of the trunnion because of this little ring here. And after some time, this rivet's going to start to come loose, because that area there is going to mash down and work itself smooth in the receiver, and then the front trunnion will start to try to come loose. Pistol trigger guard mag catch. Now on the Ames 74, you have a situation where this little doodad here, the selector stop, is just kind of very much literally cut off. And that's the only difference between it and a standard AKM one. You're going to want to make sure that that sucker is straight across, otherwise you're going to have an issue when you press this thing, that you're going to have the rivet's going to want to leave a gap in between the receiver and the parts. Now, same true here. You want to make sure that these ears on the trigger guard and the mag catch area are level and straight, because like I said with the other part, you'll have issues where the rivet does not want to seat properly. Now, keep in mind, all these parts, or all these kits usually come with the auto accessories. These parts right here, just throw them in the garbage. You're not going to need them, or throw them in the scrap pile and take them to the scrap yard. Now, they do come with 3 pins, 3-axis pins, which is great because you can use the one for an extra, or a keychain or whatever you want to do. You can reprofile some of this stuff, like the auto hammer and stuff like that. You can reprofile this stuff for use in your semi-automatic, but you will run into a situation where you have 922R compliance. So what I usually do is US made barrel, receiver, and trigger components, and then muzzle brake. But in this situation, we're going to be a little bit limited. I'm going to use trigger group, trigger hammer disconnector, and the receiver, and pistol grip, so that's 5, and then magazine floor plate or magazine follower for the 6th part. So, and because I don't have too many AK-74s, it's not going to be a problem. So it's just going to be what it is. I mean, there's not going to be too much. You can also do the gas piston, so that's another option there for you. Now, another thing that a lot of people overlook is the selector. A lot of people call them safeties. This is not a safety. This is a selector. Now, this is a different style than your regular AKM. However, if you build it just the same as any other AK, this you can swap out for, say, a Krebs Custom or something like that, that has already got the notch in it. Now, there's not enough meat here to do a proper notch for semi-auto only without really messing with the structural integrity of this part. So you can use it as is, but I would recommend modifying the disconnector if you do plan on retaining this selector. Now, what you're going to want to do with the disconnector, an ALG AKT trigger should bypass this selector. So you may have to do some modification. I have in the past had to do modifications on some of my selectors, even with the ALG AKT trigger. I love that trigger, but you're going to want to reprofile the hammer a little bit in order to prevent deformation. Now, the really neat thing about this hammer here, this is a Romanian hammer. You'll notice it's got that really hard edge there. Obviously, this gun's been used, and then you'll notice on the back of the carrier tail, there's nothing really in the way of deformation. So, a lot of this has to do with angles. Another factor there is the hardness of the parts. Alright, now what we got here is the hammer spring. Hammer spring is a 1-wire, it's just a solid wire. It isn't braided. For this build, we are going to be using a paperclip, the shepherd's hook style wire retainer. These are awesome, by the way, guys. Very simple, very low tech, and nothing that you're going to be out of your element trying to do anything with. Now, this right here, standard AKM or Trunnion, and this is the side folding, East German inspired side folding stock. Now, when you put these together, if you do end up with a full stock, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to want to make sure that this pad here is proper, properly put on, because once you fold this to the side and that slams against the side of the receiver, what this could do is put a nice gouge or ding in the side of your receiver. So if you don't want that, make sure you're paying attention to that. Now, this is all that there is to the rear stock. If it's a folding stock, the spring hardware and everything is built in, whereas the Egyptian, the East German, and the Polish have a bracket that bolts on, and with the pistol grip installed. So anyway, this is all you're going to need for this setup, and the other ones you're going to have an issue with if you try to go with a minimalistic setup like that, because some of the parts are going to be missing. Recoil assembly, you want to make sure that the spring isn't tweaked at the ends. You want to make sure that the rods are straight. I mean, obviously, you're going to have, this is what they do. They squeeze together just like that, and they can bend like this, but you want to make sure that the coils are relatively nicely wound. You don't want to have any issues where you're going to have to be jamming that in there. You want to make sure that the ears that go into the rear trunnion are nice, and likewise you're going to do that to the rear trunnion as well, so you can make sure you're able to slide that into the rear trunnion without a problem. Now, moving on, that part looks good there. Now you got the dust cover. You're going to have a couple of issues with the rear here. You want to inspect that for cracks. I haven't seen very many surplus models that have cracks or issues in that department, but it doesn't mean they can't happen. Now, with this one, it looks like the stamping was done a little bit wonky. So this rear cut's a little weird, which doesn't mean anything. It just means that there's, the cut is different. Anyway, this is one thing where I'm like, aesthetics. You got to build by aesthetics, or you got to build by part fitment. So, anyway, you want to make sure that the sides are serviceable. They're straight. They're good to go. The selector stop right here. This is a selector stop that's built into this dust cover. Bulgarian AK-74s tend to have this, and this is my preferred dust cover. That one there does not have that bulge on the dust cover like this one does. Now, keep in mind, if yours doesn't have that, then you may have an issue where the selector wants to ride up and over the dust cover. But you'll notice this one here is going to want to stop right in the dust cover. So there's a manual stop, if you will, for the selector on the dust cover. Now, that's about all we've got here. Now, just like I said, when we were talking about the front trunnion, there are some burrs here. We're going to have to take care of that. We're going to have to take care of some burrs on this. And we got to straighten the selector stop and the mag catch out a little bit. But other than that, this thing is ready to go. What we're going to start with on the next video is the coloring of the parts. Well, I will have already had the parts colored there, so we won't have to worry about that. What we are going to do is we're going to make sure that the parts are ready to go, and we're going to probably, next video, I really hope we can get this done. I at least want to get the front and rear trunnions done. The trigger guard video, I really shouldn't have to do a trigger guard video because I already did one. But since we're doing the paint by numbers thing, we're going to go ahead and do it anyway, because I want to make sure that the flow of the build is maintained. Barrel and head spacing we're going to do last, and the reason why I want to do it that way is because I don't want spray paint in this trunnion when I go to head space the rifle, because if there is, then I may have an issue with the part not wanting to maintain head spacing after a few hundred rounds. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you are building that way, you want to make sure that that's going on. One really neat thing about this build is this is a numbers matching parts kit. I mean, there's very few parts kits that are in my collection that are numbers matching, but that doesn't mean that they're any less valuable to me, and it doesn't mean that they're any less competent of or capable of a firearm. Anyway, guys, I just wanted to kind of give you guys a sneak peek into the past. A lot of people have said, no, Zeke didn't make build videos, DVDs before YouTube. Before YouTube was a thing, Zeke Shoots was on DVD. So, if you guys had any questions about that, feel more than welcome to send me an email, zeke@zekeshoots.com, or leave a message down below on Patreon. Honestly, this first video I may post on YouTube after a few months. But one thing is for certain, once we get to the point of no return, where we're going to start drilling, then we will be getting away from that. Real quick heads up, this here is the Egyptian. The Egyptian is going to be for $5 and up. So if you aren't donating $5 and up, you're not going to see the Egyptian. What I'm doing here, and what I'm going to be doing with the way the build is going to go, this one here is for everybody. If you're donating $1 or more, if you're donating $1 or more a month, you're going to be able to see this regardless of your donation level. But if you want to see the Egyptian and the links I'm going to go through to make this thing something special, then you're going to have to watch via $5 a month or more. Now, if you want to stay at the $1 a month, that's fine. You just won't be able to see the Egyptian being built, which we are going to start on the Egyptian as soon as we are done, filming this. So, pay attention to this. The only thing I need for this build right now is, well, quite frankly, pretty much everything. No, seriously though, the only thing I need for that is a front trunnion and rear sight block. And what I want to do is I was thinking about getting Egyptian parts, but now the more I think about it, the more I say to myself, you know what, I can just save the Egyptian parts for something that is special for somebody else, and I will get virgin parts and build it up like that. Here's the bolt that we're going to be using with it. This is a 100% US made forged bolt, and we're going to be using this with the Egyptian. So just kind of a little quick sneak peek at what we've got going on there. Anyway, guys, if you got questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section here. And as always, thank you for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, God help you all, because you should be subscribed because you're here. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.